I sat back and I told God that, you know what, I cannot handle these things again. I've tried to control it too many times and it did not work. And so if it's that you really exist as they say, I want you to show me. And I cannot lie that I cried every day for 120 days. I'm sure I've even lost count. I was sticking it on days that I cried, days that I did not cry. And I journaled through all these days. And every day that I opened up my Bible, it felt like God was speaking to me.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Loving Creative Podcast. My name is Chasa. On this episode, I have a conversation with my friend Leslie Meya, who is a poet and an aspiring human resource management person. Basically, she wants to work with people for the rest of her life and she thinks that's the coolest thing anybody can do. On this episode, we talk about a bunch of things, very deep, painful things that Leslie went through, such as losing her grandmother and losing her sister all within less than 6 months, and moving to the US in a way that was unexpected for her, which was actually the DV lottery. And she says she didn't really want to move to the US. It's a short conversation, and we hope to actually do a second parter in the future when she's settled in and maybe getting to school and work and all things like that. I feel this is a good introduction into who Leslie is, what she's already gone through, and to actually just give you an understanding of what it can take, how somebody can use loss to really transform their lives. I enjoyed talking with her, and I know I'm going to listen to this episode again like nearly every episode and everybody I talk to. If you do like this episode, I hope you can take a break at some point and go leave a review on iTunes. It really means a lot to me for you to give me your comments, your opinion. Leave a rating and a review. That's all I'm asking. I love talking to these people. I want to keep doing that, and I think that the more feedback you give me, the better I can bring the guests to you. So without wasting your time, let's listen to the conversation.
Yes.
Welcome to the Love and Creative Podcast.
Thank you, Kamga.
I'm glad you agreed to my interview request.
I'm happy to be here.
Are you sure?
Yes. You made me doubt that for a moment.
All right, so I don't know if you've listened to the episode of the podcast. I've done some interviews with a bunch of other people. I say a bunch of people, I see there are thousands of people. But the reason why I invited you to the podcast, which I'm going to write about in the description, is because I think you're a very cool person.
Thank you.
We've been friends for years. You moved and came to the US, and I was hoping to, I want to say pick your brain, but I hate that expression, to find out from you what the experience of moving to the US has been like. You've been here for how long?
A month and a half. I'll be clocking 2 months sometime towards the end of this month. Forgotten.
So, first question.
Yes.
Where did you grow up and how has that affected what you're doing right now? So you're going to take us from your story, from childhood to what you're doing now.
I think I had a pretty normal childhood like every other person. I grew up not in money, but in comfort. I had both parents, I had my siblings, and I went to what has always been assumed as the best schools from primary, secondary, right to the university. And I grew up with very kind parents, but at the same time, there were things that I know that affected my childhood and still does. There was violence in my home. There was violence, and I don't think that I really do want to talk much about that, but that's a part of my life which has really affected who I am, and I'm still trying to work on it. But I was a very quiet kid. I still think I'm very quiet, but I like to think I'm cool. Yes. So I'm actually the firstborn from my parents, but my mom raised whom everybody knows as my sister, who passed away sometime in September, but my mom raised her. So you will never really know. And I know it's a typical Cameroonian African thing for us, where we grow up with our cousins and their sisters. And I have a younger sister as well. So it was just girls. And then we had my dad and my mom. And we had a pretty normal childhood, I would like to think.
And that was in Cameroon. Where exactly in Cameroon?
In Limbe, the beautiful city of Limbe, the town of friendship as it is described. I went to a good school, went to a good secondary school, but then I was always to myself because of the situations that were happening around my environment. My home with my parents always fighting, and all of that violence just made me, close up. And I'm not really much of a talkative except with people with whom I feel comfortable. But then I still know how to blend in some sort of way. I just know how to manage everybody's energy. But then I'll always still drift apart to go find my own zone and just reconnect. You understand.
Yeah. It's I mean, that's just a snippet of childhood. And the first time we met was in UB. Well, were you in UB or Carling University then?
I was in Carling University.
I was in UB. That was on 2009.
No.
Oh, okay.
2010.
How did we meet? In fact, you know what? I should never bring this story up. How did we meet? Yeah.
How did we meet? I think we met through Praxed. I'll not remember. I don't remember exactly. But there's one. Each time I think of you, there's one time I remember you came to Naka and we had a whole lot of conversation. Yeah. And then I was not really into reading.
I was trying to ask you out. Yeah. And then that didn't work out so well.
Yes. I was just in my own zone, doing my own things, just a normal Leslie, just in her own end. But then I think that would have been 2013. Mm-hmm. Then I was in Naka. And then we met again in 2015.
Yeah.
Yes, we met again in 2015. Yes.
Okay. For me, the milestones in our relationship has always been around working at EA and having you perform a poem.
Sure.
I don't know. I never really got... I mean, we've talked about it. You've said it multiple times, but I would like to actually hear what poetry meant from you before that time, at that particular juncture, and then what it means to you now.
I think I never really thought of poetry as a thing. I'm the kind of person who each time I have, a relationship, either a friendship, whatever, I always want to be part of that person's life in every way. So I felt like it was more of me wanting to be able to impress you and have conversations with you. So I had to dig into poetry. I never knew that it was a thing. Even the podcast, I was struggling listening to them. But you give me lots of podcasts, and then we met Howard and Mark, who I remember when they came to my room. And I still have that memory. All of us were there in black and white. And it was from then that I saw another part of it. But I think what really stood out was Anne-Marie's, when you were given a week by Alex to come up with a period night.
Yeah.
And that was something for me. And because you had so much confidence with me and you told me that, Leslie, he has given me a week and I need you to come up with something, I felt like I had to do it. So that was it. But now poetry is a whole ball game. There's music that's blending into it. There's just wanting to tell your own story. It's already a part of me, and I just like the journey that I'm going through with my writing, with my poetry, even though I've not written in a while. But yes, I'm just very interested for the future because I know that it's something that I'll definitely look into.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about your childhood and a little bit about your love for poetry. But what we may even want to clarify more is how, as much as you consider yourself sort of a creative, you really think that your heart is in human resource management.
I think my heart is in people.
People?
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
I don't know if it's that I'm craving for some sort of connection that I never had growing up, but there's always something about me wanting to be around people and give to people and listen to. I think maybe it's also because I struggle myself with expressing. So I just feel that each time I'm with somebody and then I can be of help and I can crave that they have that human connection. I feel like what I'm not able to give out, if I'm not doing it, then you should do it. So I don't mind not doing it, but if you're doing it, then that's fine for me. How I got into human resource. My dad, there's many things I wanted to be when I was growing up. I wanted to be a politician. I can remember telling my dad I wanted to go into a RIC, and he said, no, you cannot do that because you need to have a first degree. And then it switched from me wanting to be a lawyer, and I actually applied for law, and I got, UB accepted me to do law. And then my dad was like, no, you should do something professional. Everybody is going to. So I was not happy about going to the Catholic University. I just felt that I would have to do a lot with maths, and I did not want to meet maths again. Maths is not really my friend. But then I looked at it, I did my research, and there was management, there was accounting, there was banking and finance, there was insurance, and then there was human resource. And my dad was like, oh no, you should do management, because he knew that accounting is a waste of time. There'll be maths and I'm not good with that. And I said, no, I'm going to do human resource management, because immediately I Googled it and I saw people and just everything that I did. I was like, no, this is for me. I want to create an environment where people are able to come to work and still feel free. Work should not be a burden. It should be a place where you're able to, apart from your personal life, show off another part of you which people do not really know, yet still in a very healthy way. So I went through Quinn University, had my degree in human resource management, and I did a couple of internships. But then one thing that's really interesting is when I got into the field, which I think like most of us who went to school and we go into the field with such high expectations, sometimes we get disappointed. But then I was not really disappointed. I was like, I was already ready for this, but I just felt like there are certain things that we need to change in the system. Like what? I felt like, let's say for example, I'm trying to think. Yes, there's this thing where I always forget, like I'll be thinking and then everything just goes away. But let's say mental health, for example. I know it's something that we talk a lot about, but there's this part of creating an environment where people can come to work, and I feel like even though the human resource, they say that they are there for the people, it's more like they're there to pay the people, but they're not making those work environments which is going to be flexible for people in their health, fare, in their personal life. And let's say one thing that I feel that it's important in any working organization is having a social time. There's the saying that no playing without Jack makes it, I don't know.
Yeah, all work and no play makes Jack a dull
boy. Boy, yes.
And all play and no work makes, I don't know, Jack a dumb boy.
But yes, there's that, and I feel that we can create that kind of environment because there are a lot of people who carry their baggage from home, their marriages, their children, and they bury all of these things in work, and they're not able to be productive, and they're struggling with all of that, and they cannot really open up to people because you don't want people. We have this mentality that you don't want people to know your business because they might either use it to mock you or to just spread it around.
When you say we, is this like a world human thing, or do you think it's more from a Cameroonian perspective? When you say we, what do you mean?
Well, I've not been here long enough to know how
we'll talk about that. I really look forward to the comparisons of what you're seeing between the two different countries.
Yes, but I think that, well, I've grown just in Cameroon before moving here, so I think maybe it's a Cameroonian thing. Like it's a general Cameroonian thing. But sometimes when you talk with other people, you see that it's almost the same thing. It's a human thing where we're not able to express ourselves for some reason. I don't know why, but yet we crave that connection. And I still don't know why we're not able to get it. So it's always interesting when you find people who think like you and you just want to stick around them because it just makes life easier.
Yeah. So let's get into the meat of this journey. And I don't know if you want to tell us about how you got here to the US. Yes,
I am looking forward to say that story. So I came here winning the DV lottery, and we have this thing where and I feel like it's really sad, and I remember that Monique too had mentioned it at one point in time in EA, where when we have these good news celebrations, we don't want to tell people because we're scared they might harm us, witchcraft and all of that. And it was just very frustrating not to tell people that this is what is happening. But then for a greater part of me, it was okay. And it's not like I did not want to tell the people. It was just that I was not happy about moving to the US.
Why?
I did not want to move to the US. The US, me moving out of Cameroon has never been a plan. Me wanting to travel, like just having a life outside Cameroon. The plan has always been, okay, you go to school, maybe work money, get married if it has to happen, do that and that. And it's all about visiting and still coming back home because I'm really, really like into Cameroon. It's like my plans, 5 years, 10 years, there's still Cameroon inside it. So it was just that, oh my God, this is happening. I'm going to be leaving Cameroon. Why am I leaving Cameroon? What am I going to do outside of Cameroon? And just having to start back, getting to know people, another environment, it was not exciting for me. I did not see like I had anything to offer outside of Cameroon. So it just felt like Cameroon is home. And I feel like it's like that for many of us. So, the typical youth mentality in Cameroon is, oh no, let's go out of the country, we go have a degree and everything. And for some reason, I've never thought like that. It's like I can do this in Cameroon if I want to do it in Cameroon. If I'm going out, it's because there's more availability of resources, like to tap from the knowledge, the technology and everything, but still come back home. So when I'm even scared sometimes to tell people that I know that in 5 years from now I'll be back in Cameroon living with my family.
Why are you scared of that?
Because of how people just want to place they're like, oh no, you have this good thing. This is a good thing that you're here. And they just feel like, and this is what I was telling you, that America means different things to different people. But people just feel that when you leave the country, that is it for you. Like, it is heaven. Let me use that word, heaven. It's as though there is paradise there. And I've been looking for that paradise a month and a half now, and I've still not found it.
So you haven't seen anything so far? I mean, this is just an extreme question, but from the day you got here till now, what has been the main differences that you've noticed? They might not necessarily be good or bad differences. What are the things that stand out for you as, okay, certain events, people, or something that happens that you're like, oh, actually, this is what America looks like?
The weather, to begin with. It's as though God created the skies different. Honestly, when I look at the sun setting in the evening, and I look at the way it sets back in Cameroon, it's like it's two different things. Even the clouds, I've observed everything, like the way the infrastructures and just everything, but I don't really feel like anything has stood out for me. Maybe it's because I'm not going out a lot. Maybe because I've not had that opportunity. But I've not also met like different people. I've still had to hang out a lot with Cameroonians, and it's still the same mentality, which is sad. But then there's nothing really, I don't know why. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm trying so hard to be focused and not get carried away with the whole American dream and everything, that maybe I'm not seeing those things. And I'm just hoping that by the time I get into school and everything, things are going to change. But so far, like, it just feels like I've traveled from Limbe to Kumba or Limbe to Douala, except that the weather is cold.
Yeah.
And there are more people, and there are more white people, and there are not many people like me. And yes, that's just it. That's how it is for me. And it feels like I've always meant to be here. For some reason, I'm just comfortable. So I get frustrated when people ask me, how is it, this, that, and that, and I'm not able to say anything extraordinary, because there's nothing extraordinary for me right now.
I mean, I've been here for 9 months, and I did a video where I was talking about 10 things that I experienced for the first time in the US. And I have another video that coming up about the toll of immigration, which is like, when I hear you talking, right, I don't even know, I don't even sound patronizing at all, because like you said, America is different things with different people. And so different people have different experiences, the way they look at the world, the way they go through things. So it might be different at certain points. For me, for example, when I got here, by August, I was married, I was living with my wife. Like, there's all these different experiences that you might never have. And there's also internal pressures. Like, I feel this need to, hey, I'm in America, I should make use of internet, I should make use of this, I should be doing all this, I should be creating. And that pressure now hit me very hard around November. So I also it was terrible for me. And it's just a month and a half, so it might even not be doing disservice by asking you this question, like, okay, what is different now? Maybe in a couple of months we'll do another call and then see how things are different. But what are some of those things, some of those myths that maybe you had when you were in Cameroon, or you heard from people, or you heard people say about America, that you come down and you're like, okay, this thing is not entirely true, or they're just holes in it that you're figuring out? Are there any things that people said that now you're looking like, yeah, that was a lie, or that's not very true, or that was really true? Like, what are those things that people said before that now you're verifying and you're discovering that, okay, this makes sense, or this doesn't make sense?
I thought that the food was going to be bad. I mean, to be very, I'm not really great at trying new food, so I thought I would not be able to eat anything. But each time I go and I try something, like, it's not as bad as I thought now. There's this whole idea that you'll not be able to eat, it's either too sweet, too salty, it's not as spicy as this, but it's not that bad as people think. So there's the food. I don't know anything else again.
What kind of food have you eaten so far?
We ate Chinese yesterday.
Oh yeah, at Panda. Went with the family. Mr. Panda buffet.
Yes. I've tried Mexican as well.
Which burritos, Doritos?
I don't even remember.
Tacos,
yes. Then
Doritos is not even Mexican food. What am I doing? Jesus. Anyway,
Doritos is chips, right?
Yeah, it's chips.
Yes, tacos, and then what have I tried again? Nothing. Nothing.
Nothing. So,
Yeah.
okay, first thing that you thought was going to be terrible, which is great food. What else did you thought was going to be maybe nice, and you're like, okay, that is terrible. Have you used the bus yet?
No,
Okay,
I've
yeah.
not used the bus.
And you're in for an experience. Oh, maybe not. That's the whole thing about this whole different
Yeah,
for
I've
different
not-
people. Yeah.
I've not even seen buses around my area.
Oh, there's no buses in Texas.
In Richmond.
Tell me about. Actually, talk to us about Richmond. Like, how is your? Can you paint us a picture of your neighborhood?
Richmond is the typical, like the word rich in it.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that's how it is. So it just feels like I'm in Cité Sonora all over, and anybody who grew in Limbe knows that Cité Sonora is like what we call for the Ajebotas. Like it's this very quiet neighborhood where people just come out of their house. You don't see children really play much. You just come out and say bonjour, and that's how everybody is in their houses. So that's how Richmond is. It's I don't want to say it's a typical white neighborhood because our neighbors are black and then the other neighbors are Asians. So
Okay.
but it's the typical when compared to the other places I've gone to when I go visit my friends and just when we drive
It's
around
still within Texas or out of state?
still within Texas, you see that it's a typical Richmond neighborhood.
Okay.
Yes.
And
That's how it is.
do you have any comparison to movies or maybe TV shows or something there like, oh, I saw this thing somewhere in a movie and this is it now?
I feel like now when I watch movies or maybe series or whatever, I feel that I'm able to understand better, especially when it comes to the street side. So it's like, okay, since I live here now, I see these things.
Yeah.
So when you are back in Cameroon, it's like it's just this thing that you're just really into the movie. But now while here, you're able to pay attention to those things and easily relate to them. Yes.
Yeah, like things like when you say, oh, I'm at 3 blocks away. I'm like, what is a block? It's like
Exactly.
mud block for a house. 3 blocks is like
Yes.
1 meter.
There's that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I really want to find out some of those things because we had a really interesting conversation yesterday with my wife when we were talking about, basically, being a partner to a creative, moving to the US, figuring out what you want to do. I wonder which part of your story lends to your. You already talk about your interest in people, but you also have an interest in introspection. You tend to do a lot of introspection, thinking, and then you feel a lot. Like it was something that Quinn was saying this morning.
Yes.
Right? Your feelings are just in your hands. You're just there, and I don't. So maybe you can teach me a little bit in this episode. But what I want to find out is what about you changed that you started becoming this kind of person, because it's not how you were always.
Yes.
Is it? So what happened?
And I remember you said like you've grown. I'm like, yes, he noticed. This is growth. So what changed? I think that loss happened when I lost my grandmother in February. It was already a changing point. Then I lost my sister in September. Then I went through a breakup, and there was just all of these things happening at the same time, and it was just too much to handle. But the first thing that I learned was humility. I think that just knowing that, and even as I'm talking, like I have chills and everything, but just knowing that you have no power over life, it's so much for me to know that every day is not guaranteed. So when I lost my grandmother, I felt this is how it happened. Well, we were already preparing ourselves, and there were too many things happening at the same time. And unfortunately, I documented everything in a journal which I lost. I think I did that on purpose because I did not just want to read and just go back through that phase. But having to spend the last 2 months taking care of my grandmother, watching her and I come from a family of strong women. Like, for just some reason in my family, it's like the girls do more than the boys. For just some reason, it's we stand out. We are strong. I don't know if it's because we are expected to be that, but it's just the women at the head for some reason. I don't know why. And when I sit back and I look at it, it's like this is what is really happening. So just going through that phase, seeing somebody and then looking at them and that they are no more there, and then you have to redo the whole thing 6 months later. I had to sit back to take a break and ask myself that in a few months, because I always knew that my 25th year had to be different. And I had to sit back and prepare myself that in a few months' time, you're going to be 25, which is 5 years away from 30. I don't know. I always just look at it like that. And what will you have done differently? And what is it? You need growth. Like, what is it? Your whole person. I don't know how I can explain that. But I just wanted I just had to sit back and think about everything, had to let go of certain things, had to ask myself who I am really, which I know that a lot of us really struggle like with our identity. And I feel like what is different now is because every day I get to learn who I am. I am beginning to understand, because I used to struggle with vulnerability. I felt like I did not have to be that. I had to be this strong, mean girl all the time, and just very indifferent. Indifferent is the word that I like to describe myself a lot. And but then things change, and then I had to accept the fact that I'm not as indifferent as I thought. Maybe I'm just this very emotional person, and it's okay. So I feel like me knowing all of that and having this self-confidence that I've walked through, and I'm still working through it, I feel like that's what has made me grow over the past 6 months. And also, I think that the greatest part of it, which is the most interesting part, was me deciding to have my personal relationship with Christ. You know, sometimes I even still struggle that maybe it's because it's an African thing where we're raised to believe in God and everything. But then, true, maybe that's it. And we Africans have exaggerated with it. And just growing up, you grew up as Catholic. I grew up as Catholic. Quinn grew up as Catholic, just like many of us. And I sat back and I told God that, you know what, I cannot handle these things again. I've tried to control it too many times and it did not work. And so if it's that you really exist as they say, I want you to show me. And I cannot lie that I cried every day for 120 days. I'm sure I've even lost count. I was ticking it on days that I cried, days that I did not cry. And I journaled through all these days. And every day that I opened up my Bible, it felt like God was speaking to me. So I feel like with all of that, that's how I was just able to walk through for the last 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is powerful.
Mm-hmm. And I'm proud. I am proud of myself in no way that I cannot even explain. And just, you know, at the beginning, it was always like, okay, everybody is having jobs. People are getting married. People are having kids. There's something happening. But now I really do not care. And truth is, I've not really always cared about marriage and kids. Like, all my very good friends are married and they have kids. But it's like, I don't feel that pressure. For some reason, sometimes I feel like I'm not normal, but for some reason I don't.
Who
feel
is
that
normal? Who is normal? It's like you talk about normal. I was asking my therapist. Actually, literally asked my therapist often, like, "Am I normal?" She was like, "What do you mean by normal?"
Yes.
Everybody's dealing with something that makes them abnormal. It feels like we just have to find a way sometimes to just be ourselves in the most healthy way possible.
Yeah. So with all of that, it was just, I had to redefine what success meant to me and who I was as a person and who I want to be as a person. And I feel like just this little growth, like just getting up every day and that I'm able to smile and that I'm not as moody as I used to be in the past, it's just great for me. And I'm just loving this new Leslie. I'm excited to see myself in the next 6 months, in the next 5 years, who I'm going to turn out to be. And for some reason, it always feels like on those days when it's going to be raining and when it's going to be strong, I know that I'm going to make it through. If it's that I have to cry for that day, then I'm going to cry. If I have to call everybody and just whine and scream, but it's definitely going to be fine. It's just going to be a bad day like every other day.
That's a very positive outlook to look at the world. Even though it's like it's mired, it's sparked from this place of deep sadness and pain and mourning, and then listen to you talk is like, it's quite encouraging and inspiring. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I feel like it's often, I guess all of us, like Mark, Howard, and everybody, the reason why we tend to stick to each other is like we see the world different. Yeah. We tend to be more expressive, more introspective, and look at things. Do you think that's a Cameroonian thing, or how do we end up in that particular way? Or for you, what's your version of that, of looking at the world around? Because were you not, of course, you were not always like this, but back in Cameroon, I guess, and I might be wrong, that the way you saw the world was still different and probably quote weird.
True.
Yeah.
I'll let's just go back to my childhood. Who I was. I was not the. It goes back to what we were saying about being normal and regular, but I always knew that there was something about me which I could not. I always stood out from every other person. So I was not very talkative to begin with. The way I always thought was not the same way other kids thought, and for some reason it just made me always be to myself. And it's the same thing when I went through secondary school, having all my friends. I've had a whole bunch of crazy friends. I always tell people that I have different kind of friends. I don't even, sometimes I ask myself, like, how am I friends with these people? But then because of what they offer, I love them for who they are. And just, I think that's the beautiful thing about friendship, that you're able to have all these different people, and then there's just that thing that you guys are able to connect. For some reason, it might be beer, I don't know, it might be whatever, but then that you can still call that person and count on that person. I think that's it. So when I moved to the university, I still had a hard time, and I still have a hard time. And for some reason, you don't even know, but I just feel like Quinn is going to be my friend in a very long time. That conversation of yesterday changed things, and that the conversation we had today at Miley's house is still going to change things. And
what conversation do we have with Miley?
You were not there.
Oh,
it was Quinn and I.
You guys drove me out.
True. Yes, we're having a girl moment, but I think Quinn is the one female person that I feel that I've spoken to, and I see myself completely. It's like she's able to finish up my words. And each time she speaks, it's like, oh, Quinn, I get you. And each time I speak, it's like, oh, it's like, what
you should kick me out of this marriage. Just carry on. I don't think, yeah.
And for a very long time, I thought like I was not going to meet somebody like that. I have friends that we share the same idea, but we're still very much different in a whole lot of things. Like I would say if we share things, it's like 60-70, but there's that 30%. But with Quinn, it's like it's almost 90%. It's almost like I'm seeing myself. But so much I like, different. But there's just one strong connection. And each time she keeps saying that, how come we've not been friends? Because honestly, Quinn was like, this is Kamga's wife. Kamga is one of my best friends. He's one of the people that I really love on this earth. And he has found this amazing person. And I see everything that happens. And I have to love her. And I don't think we ever had the opportunity to
build an actual relationship with each other.
Yeah, so I think that coming to, oh my God, this is going to change my life in so many ways. And I'm happy for it. And I'm really grateful for it. And I look forward to what we're going to share in the future.
Babe, no. I don't know if she's going to watch this. She's now going to start working, and we're moving next week. Yeah.
I'm happy for you guys. I'm excited. I mean, just watching Quinn on Friday, I don't know, for some reason, I think that maybe it's because I've gotten to know myself in such a way that I'm just able to express it. Like, when I see both of you people, I'm happy. Like, I'm happy to see people who are in love, who have like an actual friendship. And it's like, oh my God, I'm happy Kamga is happy. I'm happy Quinn is happy. I'm happy they make each other happy. And there's just all this happiness. And just, I think the most important thing for me on Friday when I watched Quinn was that you were able to be here. I do not want to imagine what it would have been if you were in Cameroon.
Yeah, that would have sucked.
Yes, that you were able to be here to take those pictures, to stand with her, to see this thing. And you, of all people, knows how she has struggled with it. There's nobody that's going to understand better than you. And that you are here, I just think that it's a blessing. And I'm grateful for that. I don't know. See how we looked beautiful and how everybody was like,
we were trying to take pictures with us the whole time. I was like, where are you guys from? Like, hey, from Cameroon.
Yes.
We're not Amber Boys. Come on. Yeah. Even though Word Northwest material and everything. But yeah, that was pretty dope. It's when I hear you speak, first of all, thank you for the blessings. I'll collect all of them. And secondly, you talk about this happiness, this thing where you can see people who are happy and you're happy for them.
True.
I don't know if that comes naturally to you or it's something that has to be taught. Like, is this something that people can just have?
I feel that it's something that people can just have if they just open up themselves to it. I think that there's so much that we bundle in ourselves, but it's like, let's celebrate our wins. Let's celebrate. If you're doing great, then this is fine. If I can be there, I'm going to. I always tell my friends that, see, I'm that one friend who shows up for everything. I go for friends' birthdays, for their parties. I go for their kids' parties. I'm just everywhere, and just knowing that people are happy. And I think it's because for so long I was not really happy with who I was, and that I feel like we always limit ourselves to what our definition of happiness is, and that if you're with people that you can just share that moment. I just feel that it's the loss that changed me. I'm very, very certain that there's the loss that changed me. And each time I talk to people, they're always saying that they don't know what they're going to do if maybe their mother died or something. And I told them that honestly, there's an extra grace that God gives you. You don't know where it comes from. And this is something that I always felt even before I'd lost my grandmother and my sister. It's something that, because when I watch people who I knew that they had very good relationship with their parents, and I watch their mother pass, their father pass, and you see how on that day they are standing there and they're not doing anything, I just tell myself that there's something about it. And I think that another thing which Zinzi Clemons, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name.
Yeah, I think
yes.
Mark will laugh at us right now. Leslie, you're so disappointing.
Zinzi's What We Lose, when I read that book, I read it just a month after I lost my grandmother. And when she describes the whole process with her mother and everything that happens, like, oh my God, is this what is really happening? I felt this, I experienced it, and I feel like I was the person closest, because for a greater part of the time my mom was at work. I was always the one in the house with my grandmother. I'll be feeding her, moving her places, making sure she takes her meds, making sure she has her bath. I was everywhere, my back, my body. Imagine lifting a 70-something-year-old woman and you're all there in the house, and just watching her go through that phase. There's a certain change that happens when they're closer to death, which I don't know if I should explain right now.
Yeah. But
they become very quiet. They become they're into themselves. They don't talk much. They don't eat as much as before, and you feel like maybe it's because they're just losing appetite. But it's later when I read her book and when I did my own research that I saw that no, this is them actually going away. Because my grandmother would say things like, they came to take her, but her time has not reached, and it just felt like, oh no, maybe she's just going off, and everything is the whole sickness and everything. But this woman was preparing herself. I remember one day sitting, because in February, in the years where I think Matthew has 28 chapters, if I'm not wrong, and in the years where February has 28 days, I read each chapter every day. And so I read, I don't know which chapter, that would have been 25, 26, and I read through all the chapter, and then I decided to sing some of our Catholic hymns with her, and she was very happy. And then she sat and asked me, who taught you how to read the Bible? And my heart melted. I felt like I was going to die, because like, this is you who taught me how to read this Bible. How come you cannot remember? But then she was very happy, because she was not able to go to church. My grandma was a devout Catholic, a staunch Catholic. If you know what it means, I pray I pray in English, French, Pidgin, and a little bit of Basa. That's how Catholic we are. And just sitting there and seeing that joy just made me happy. But then there's this whole process. They become very quiet. I think they are preparing themselves to whatever is going to be in the afterlife, whatever happens there. But I think they just reflect on everything, and that was it for my grandmother. My sister's experience was different, because it just happened very fast, and still to this day, like, you saw me break down today in church, and yeah, but I still cannot explain. So it's like, that's something that you just have to live with. But yes.
I'm going to listen to this episode again. Like, there are so many parts, and I look forward to actually recording again at some point in the future, when things have been different in terms of moving
yes,
and personal change and growth. And yeah, who knows, maybe by then you have a little boy running around looking like you. Yeah, so this is deep. I'm still taking it all in. Let's go now to the rapid fire section, because I feel like we could talk. I mean, we've talked for hours without recording, and now we'll probably talk again without recording. Let's not punish somebody listening here. Like, find your own Leslie, just so you know. Let's do some rapid fire, which will probably go deeper. You already mentioned Zinzi Clemons' What We Lose. Mm-hmm. What are some of those books that you've read that you feel that everybody who is on a journey, a life journey, I don't want to just focus on creative. Creative. I first of all think that everybody is creative. Even people who think that they are not. But what are some of the books that come to your mind that have Ryan Holiday calls them quick books from this email that he wrote, books that change, that really break down your perspective, and you're like, oh, this is a new way of looking at the world I never thought about.
Well, there's Calix Biala, Femme Nue, Femme Noire.
What's the book about?
The book is about this. It almost feels like a Bessie Head. What's that Bessie Head's book that I did in secondary school? How come I forgot it? Yeah, I've forgotten that Bessie Head's book.
It's not even Nervous Conditions. For some reason I thought of Nervous Conditions.
Nervous Conditions, CC.
Yeah, Bessie Head. Man.
And literature.
You know what? Let's move to the next one.
Yes, but Calix Biala, it's about this girl who is a thief. And there's many things happening there. She's having a lot of these sexual experiences. There's a lot of things that are going through her head. And seeing a Cameroonian woman write that kind of book, I know a lot of times in the past people have accused Calix Biala of having stealing people's idea.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
I think because she's very outspoken and sometimes she can be very aggressive. Because I watched her interview, but I still feel like that book was interesting for me, who likes to describe herself as a sexual person. Soulful, like there's too many things. It's like these different personalities that are going on. So which other book again? That's all.
So
I can
movies,
think
rapid fire. Favorite movie?
Do I even have a favorite movie?
Favorite TV show?
TV show? I don't know.
Okay. Well, on that note, I would like to thank you, Les. I'm sure there's a lot that we can bring. And in the article that you're going to write for the podcast, we'll probably get a lot more discussion and even description. And of course, thank you, Les, for being on the podcast. You're welcome. And I'm hoping
forward to be here again.
Yes. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Loving Creative Podcast with me, Kamga Chasa. Was there a part of the episode that really resonated with you? Or is there someone in your life that you think would really benefit from listening to this episode of the podcast? I do hope you take the time to share with them, and why not with your social media following, Facebook, Instagram, whatever works for you would definitely work for me. And I would ask just one thing, that you consider leaving a comment, a rating, and a review on iTunes. That would really mean the world to me. That's it. So have a great day, and thank you for taking the time to spend this moment with me. I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.